Welcome back, marvelous moms, to part 2 of our inspiring conversation with Laura Camacho. If you tuned into part 1, you know we discovered the powerful words that can serve as the healing balm of Gilead when engaging in a challenging conversation, whether it's with your 6-year-old child or your 60-year-old parent. If you missed part 1, I encourage you, go back and listen to episode 38. Finding your voice and authority at home. You'll learn one simple phrase that can help diffuse difficult conversations. The tools and tricks that Laura shares help turn our chaos and conflict into places of peace and calm. Today, you'll hear more about Laura's journey from being introverted to becoming a communication powerhouse, reminding us how life transforms when our ability to connect improves. Hey there, I'm Misty Hughes, gratitude guide, mom mentor, celebration coach, and dream champion. My passion is to equip and empower busy Christian moms like you to live, lead, and love from an overflowing heart of joy and peace. Today, we're continuing our conversation with Laura, a communication coach and expert who specializes in helping people navigate challenging conversations with clarity and confidence. Did you know that Laura sings in a Latin choir in her church? This fun little detail speaks to her unique blend of discipline, creativity, and focus, qualities she brings to all areas of life, including her practical communication strategies. In this episode, Laura will share actionable tips for tackling those tough conversations we all face, whether it's negotiating boundaries with your kids or navigating dynamics with an extended family.
You're the heart of the house, the mom of the house, and you have so much control, more than you think, more influence about how people feel.
Mom, that's a big responsibility, but it is true. You have so much control, more than you think. And I want to help you align your life with what matters most so that you can authentically be present and purposeful, living fully and freely from the heart that Jesus gave you and raising your kids to be empowered to do the same. I want to invite you to my upcoming virtual workshop, Align Your Life with What Matters Most. In this online experience, we'll work together to discover your core values, identify the obstacles that are holding you back, and develop a strategy for living aligned with what truly matters. It's all about creating a life filled with meaning, purpose, and peace. You can find the details in the show notes or visit momtomommentoring.com/values. Now, grab your coffee, get cozy, and let's dive back into this powerful conversation with Laura.
Life is better when you communicate better. My mom always said, say what you mean and mean what you say. But saying what you mean and meaning what you say is not sufficient for complex relationships or complex situations because we get our feelings hurt. And once you get in defensive mode, it's game over.
It is. You're right. So, what's another tip or trick that you have?
I know that one of my many weaknesses is flying off the handle. And when I get to the end of my rope, it never ends well when I do that. So I'm always looking for opportunities to build people up, but not in a fake way. When you notice something about a person, like I notice when somebody has really good handwriting, which I think is extremely rare, I'll be like, oh my goodness, you have such beautiful handwriting. Looking for ways to build people up in a very sincere way. And it's better if you can do so by commenting on things that are not obvious. Like if I say, gosh, Missy, you have such pretty brown eyes, really dark, deep brown eyes. Those are so pretty. I'm sure you're like, thank you. But if I say, I'm so impressed by this podcast that you've put together to serve moms who are, in my opinion, the most unappreciated group of people on the planet right now, then that resonates more. Building people up makes people more receptive to whatever else you have to tell them. And being proactive, I think as moms, we tend to be putting out fires all the time, but thinking about what are the character qualities I want to focus on with my children this year, or How do I want the relationship with my husband to develop? I know we don't have lots of time to think about it, but you're in the shower, you're waiting for the rice to cook. You have moments to be more proactive. That's something that I work with executives because you would think senior executives are the most proactive people, but they're not. If their career path has been putting out fires, putting out fires, putting out fires, they never develop that strategy because developing character in your children is a strategy.
You talked about being proactive in the in between moments. When you were raising your kids, homeschooling, working, tending to the home, doing all the things, what was your vision? What were the qualities that you wanted to be proactive about in your kids?
Well, I wanted them to live Christian values and to be a light in the world and to live out the gifts that God had given them and to be contributors. I had a very lofty vision, but I was laser focused. God gave me 3 beautiful, super smart kids. And I'm like, you have a purpose in this world. And my job is to help you, prepare for that as much as possible. That was job number 1. And I know that's hard today, I think,
Yeah.
for a lot
How
of
do you
parents.
feel you taught them to be contributors?
You know how when before you have kids, you think about things that you would never say to your kid, right?
Yeah. Those
So,
things your mom said to you.
yes, that you're so enlightened, you would never say that. Well, one of my things in that category, I was always like, I'm not your maid. I'm
Mm,
not your friend.
mm,
I'm not here to be your buddy. I was just very clear that I was the mother and that's has authority, has responsibility. I wasn't driven by their feelings.
mm.
And
That's
I think we are all taught to empathize, but there's a time and a place for empathy, but there's also a time and a place for maternal authority, like
yeah.
chores. I
Uh-huh.
think things that they had to do that were just not negotiable. They would say, "Oh, we have the meanest mom." I didn't care. I was like, "Oh, thank you. That's great."
That was me. I was like, we had our chore charts. I had a reward system.
Mhm.
And so if you want to play video games, then you're going to do chores, right?
Right,
Or you're
right,
going to
right.
do reading. I mentioned I was a single mom, and every week we'd have weekly meetings, and I would sit them down and I would say, okay, we're a family. And because we're a family, that means everybody contributes.
Right.
And if your chore doesn't get done this week, then it affects us all. My kids were 4 years old putting clothes in the laundry machine.
Yeah.
They learned how to scrub the toilet. My 2 daughter-in-laws have both said, "I'm so thankful that my husband knows how to cook and knows how to
Yes.
fold laundry, clean the house, and all those things." I might have
Job.
been mean mom,
Yeah.
but they
What
are thriving adults.
Yes, I wanted to tell you quickly my favorite mean mom story
Oh, good.
from when my daughters were in high school. And as you know, as a single mom, you don't have the luxury of messing around because you have limited time and energy. But one of my things was after dinner, the kitchen had to be clean, clean, clean. And if you were going to have a coffee or tea later, that's fine. How much work is it to take a cup from the sink to the dishwasher? If you left something in the sink that could just be in the dishwasher, that was not allowed. I had to be at work very early one day. I'm up at 5 and I see there's a glass in the sink. So I knocked gently on both my daughter's door and said, "Excuse me, who left the glass in the sink? Somebody forgot to put it in the dishwasher." That's the story they love as their mean mom story. They got it.
Yeah.
That's not being angry. That's not raising your voice. It's consequences. And that's life. I mean, life is not easy. We all know that. We have to prepare our children for that.
Yeah, and I think it is as parents, we can teach them consequences. There are consequences for the choices that they make.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So what does it look like to be proactive in communication?
Well, you gave a great example of that is the family meetings. Like,
Mm,
what do we want our week to look like? When you're being proactive, you decide in advance what you want something to look like. Doesn't mean it's going to come out exactly like that, but you're being proactive by setting the tone, setting the goal, And that helps everybody to know how to make their decisions. They may slip and fall or rebel, but it's better that than not. Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to be home by 11. Oh, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to leave dishes in the sink. That's the most accessible, needed way to be proactive. What do we expect?
Mm.
What do we want? What do we want our family to look like?
Okay, being proactive in communicating the expectations
Yes, I would
or
say,
the values that we
right.
even when we talk about it, I feel a sense of calm for all the moms I know who are feeling overwhelmed all the time. Okay, so I'm a mom. I've got to have a hard conversation, maybe with a teacher or my manager or maybe even my husband.
Okay.
What do I need to do to prepare for a difficult conversation?
Well, pray.
Okay.
Make sure you don't have low blood sugar. In conversations, there's the controllable factors and there's the not controllable factors. So, as much as you can do to be in a good place, not be on edge, if you can take a walk, if you can stretch your body, we tend to accumulate tension. Think about what's going to help me be more calm. So that's like the
Okay.
pre-conversation, and then be very clear on your purpose, the point of the conversation, like why you're having it. That is important because they're going to be defensive if they're sensing that you're attacking them or if you're angry. Baby steps are good. Remember, it's a continuum. And part of all of this is assuming positive intent.
So it's like assuming the best, right?
Yeah, everybody self identifies as good, smart, and capable. And when you push up against that, the defenses and
Oh, okay. Like if I'm bringing you something that would indicate that you're not good, smart, and capable,
or just
because
one of those, not very smart, because if
yeah,
otherwise you would have gotten this.
if you got to give one piece of wisdom that your daughter was going to grab hold of and run with, what would that one thing that you would leave her with be?
Oh, Misty, that is such a good question. I have so much to tell them. And they're both great moms, but sometimes I wish they would be a little bit more patient with their husbands. Coming from somebody who raised them with very high expectations, you can have them, but you have to, like we alluded to earlier, appreciate the good things, spend more time thinking about those good qualities and less time about the opportunities for improvement. I think that husbands are also under attack and not
Yeah.
valued.
A part of my morning routine and one of my habits is say something kind or recognize something, a unique quality in my husband every day.
Oh, that's a good one.
Now,
That's investing in the
yes, yes.
relationship. Good job.
Now, I will say every day that doesn't happen, but it is on my list of things to do every day.
Right. And that's directing your thinking process. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. I
And
love it.
so I have to work on it. Laura, you have given us a lot to think about as far as communicating authentically, communicating clearly.
Right.
Laura, you've given all of us so much to think about, chew on, and try to incorporate. And so I want to encourage my marvelous moms to just glean from what Laura has shared. You can come back to this after you master one of these strategies, tips, or tricks that Laura has shared. But I just like to highlight just a couple of them. I loved what you said at the beginning that we need to start a conversation from a place of understanding. What I hear you say is, or let me make sure I understand, and how that diffuses defensiveness because we all have that desire to be understood or be heard. You also encouraged us to be proactive in our communication. And we talked about what that proactive stance looks like in communicating, which includes setting expectations and just thinking about what the goal of the communication is before we even enter into a hard conversation. You explained that we all self identify as being good, smart, and capable. And in communication, if we feel somebody is attacking or pushing against even one of those, our defenses go up. So it comes back to being proactive and thinking about ways that we can say something that may not push on self-identification. I'm wondering, do you have any tools that could help moms understand more about communication or help them be more mindful and develop better communication skills?
Well, definitely, if you want to work on communication, my podcast gives you little 10-minute, even though it says it is geared to prepare people for senior leadership. Who's the senior leader in your home? That would be you. So, yes, ma'am.
Right.
All of those things can be applied. So I would advise people to check out the Speak Up, Develop Your Executive Presence podcast. And then there's a link that you have to a communication style assessment, which will give you your default mode of communication. We all have our default. So if you take that assessment, it will give you your default mode of communication. So you'll know what to look out for in other people. I think that would be helpful.
I want to say yes and amen to your podcast. There are great communication nuggets on that because you are the executive in your home.
Yes, everybody
Oh,
listening to that, you're the boss. You
yeah.
have more influence than you realize inside your home, of course, but in your circle of influence at church, work. I mean, people are looking to you. No pressure. Just be perfect. That's all.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Done.
The links to your podcast and the communication style assessment will be in the show notes, along with your contact information in case any of the listeners are looking for coaching on how to communicate in their business or their home. You know, I am always so appreciative when seasoned moms come on the show and we can learn and lean in from the wisdom that you've grown in because you've had to learn this.
Absolutely.
It didn't come naturally to you. And
Right.
so thank you for sharing with all the women that will listen to this.
My pleasure. Loved it. I can't wait. I'm so happy to talk to your audience.
Laura, you've given us so much wisdom to process. Let's recap a few of the key takeaways from this episode and last week. Number 1, start conversations with understanding. Begin with phrases like, let me make sure I understand, to diffuse defensive and create a foundation of mutual respect. Be proactive, not reactive. Set clear expectations for your family. Plan ahead. Use those in-between moments to reflect on what you want to achieve in your relationships and assume positive intent. Remember, everyone identifies as good, smart, and capable. When communication threatens those identities, defenses go up. Approach conversations with care and curiosity instead of criticism. And if there's one thing to take away from today, it's this. Learn how to be proactive, present, and purposeful in your communication, whether it's with your 6-year-old child or your 60-year-old parent. Before we go, I want to invite you to my free virtual workshop, Align Your Life with What Matters Most. It's happening on February 3rd and 4th. It's designed specifically for busy Christian working moms like you who are ready to step into a life of joy, peace, and purpose. Head to the link in the show notes to register now. It's completely free. In this workshop, you're going to discover what matters most to you. You'll define how these values show up or don't in your everyday life. And you'll develop a one-thing strategy that will help you live, lead, and love with intention. And Mom, we're going to celebrate your progress and radiate joy as you embrace your values in 2025 and beyond. You are the heart of your homes, and your influence is greater than you realize. Laura and I both believe in your power to create spaces of peace, joy, and connection. Keep showing up, because every small step you take is changing the world, one conversation at a time. Until next time, remember, you were made to live boldly, lead with grace, and love abundantly.